So still working on, you know, trying to line up everything with the flipper and all that kind of stuff. So if you have a problem on your hardtop where the rear of your door glass doesn't go up high enough, like in this instance, it's barely above that flipper when it closes, so it's not even getting up here on the felt. So what you would generally do is your little short track that's right here on the back side of the door, you would move it. This end's slotted, this end's not. You would move this up. If I'm in the camera shot here. Anyway, there's the little short track right here. This end right here that's closest to the back of the door is slotted up and down. This end's not. So if you rotate that short track up, this window will go up higher. So in a lot of cases, I've had to do this on a 57 hardtop, and I had to do it on one side on my car. I had to open that hole up a little bit more to get it to go up a little bit higher. So, you know, when you're messing with reproduction glass and chrome window frames, you don't know if they're cut right. You know what I mean? So this is an aftermarket frame and a glass, and that's the way my car was, and the 57 hardtop I worked on of the customers was the same way. So I had to slot that to make it go up higher. So when you roll your window up, that roller comes back. So if this is more up, that roller goes up, causing the back of the window to go up. So I'm going to have to do that to this car. I'm going to have to remove this, loosen this, you know, and get it out of the way, and then slot that out with a die grinder. I'm just going to use this dude right here, but it needs to go up a little bit. So shoot fire, man. That's a lot of work on a door, and this is another thing I found wrong. So this is for the factory Bel Air armrests, and these hardtop doors, they have two angled ones, big holes with angled back pieces that where screws go in at an angle. Those are for the 150 or 210 series armrests. So these other ones that are straight is for this bracket that uses the Bel Air armrest, which goes on right here. These are almost always stripped out. So before you paint your doors, make sure your screws, holes aren't stripped out. Both of these are stripped out. So, you know, this is just black paint right here. So I'm going to go in here and I'm going to weld this up, both holes completely up, and re-drill new holes. And that way this will take a factory screw and it'll bolt back on there. Alright, so what I did was I drilled a 1/4 inch hole just above their oval slot, and then I used the die grinder and finished slotting it, so it actually looks kind of nice for once. So now I'm going to put the track back on there and then try rolling the window up and finalize the adjustment. So I drew a little crosshair on each one of these, and that way when I weld it up and grind it, I can go back and I'll have something to go by to know exactly where the holes need to go. don't think my air compressor's plugged in. So as I'm sitting there grinding that, trying to get it more flat, I'm noticing a little star washer spinning right there. So that screw's not tight. I think I probably better go over everything on this car. Threads are fried. Screws right here. Nice. Needs to be a cloth covering on this rod right here that connects your door handle to your latch. And this clip looks like the tab's bent. It needs to be pulled out and fixed. There's supposed to be a little cloth covering on there, and what it is an anti-rattle sleeve. So I'll have to look around in my goodies in there and see what I got that I can put on there. I'm trying to keep from Steve having to buy all these nickel and dime parts, because by the time he's done, he's gonna have a lot of money just in small parts. So if I got something that'll sleeve over that'll work, I'm just gonna do that. You know what I mean? I'm thinking like some wire loom or something. I've got some cloth wire loom, and that'd probably be perfect for that. It just has to keep it from rattling. When a car is idling, like in gear, and your RPM's really low, like in an automatic, you know, if you got a cam or whatever, things tend to shake, and that would rattle and probably drive you insane. You'd have to pull your door panel back off your car to fix it. So I might as well try to fix that while I'm in here as well. I might get this door done today. Alright, so slide tray, Tri 5 parts, saves the day again. These are the correct screws for the armrest bracket for a Bel Air. So I've drilled it back out, and now this can go on there with the correct hardware. Not stripped out anymore. Nice. Alright guys, today is Monday, July 31st, 2023. Last day of the month for July. So I come out here, plug my lights in, get ready to get the day started. I got to move the 4-door out in the driveway further and then push Steve's car out so I can get working on it. But I don't know if you can hear the mowers or not. So the lawn mowing service for my neighbor showed up. So they usually do a pretty quick job, but they stir up so much stuff and they leaf blow and everything. So it's been dry. So I am gonna wait until they're done and they leave, and then I'll open the garage door and move all the stuff out, because all that stuff will be in the air. It'll get on the cars, it'll get in here. So I'm just gonna wait. I didn't do anything this weekend. I'm not working on Steve's car on the weekend. The weekend is my time off, so I'm treating it just like a week job, you know, do work during the week type of thing. So I kind of tinkered on the 4-door just a little bit, and the biggest thing I did was I kind of went through a lot of stuff in my shed, and I still didn't make it to the other side. I have a lot of parts out there, little stuff, and it's just kind of hit and miss on stuff. One of the main things I was looking for, I found, and I am so glad of that. So I'm going to run you guys through that. And Steve's car needs it, so I found it. I was actually looking for a couple other little parts for the four-door too, so finding that for his car, it was like I was actually looking for stuff for both vehicles. So what I ended up finding was the adjustment piece for the bottom of the wing window. So in case you don't know, this is hardtop, this is sedan. See the length difference right there? This sedan is pretty short, but anyway, I had this one, and that's all I had was that. But it was actually in the bottom of a big giant tote full of crap, so that was awesome. I seen that and I was like, oh boy. So anyway, I'm going to use this star washer and nut. This is kind of unique. This is a 1/4x20 threaded adjustment screw, but it has a pretty large head on it. So these are the correct star washer. This is original 55 or 56 or 7 stuff. I'm not sure exactly what year that come off of, but they're all the same anyway. But I have the correct hardware for that wing window lower now, so that's kind of cool. Now, of course, he could have bought this, but that would have been more money he had to spend on something that I had here for free. So that works out really awesome. So I'm going to work on this window stuff again today. I didn't get finished up, which it doesn't have rollers and all that stuff. I'm probably about as far as I can go with it, actually, until the rollers and the bottoming stops come in, which Steve ordered. He also ordered front end kit stuff. We're rebuilding the front end on it, putting iron arm bearing kit stuff in it. So I need to reline these window tracks because the felt strip's falling out. And when I removed the flipper off the car Friday, I think it was Friday, I removed this flipper. May have been Thursday, I don't remember. Anyway, I had rolled the quarter window down so I could get in here and access everything real well. I came out this morning and noticed this. So the felt strip is, it's coming out of here as well. But there's no felt in the top of these channels. It just has it on the side. So I'm gonna see what I've got here to try to reline these myself so as he don't have to spend money, you know what I mean? These are pretty involved. I mean, there's a lot of little pieces that go in there, so I pretty much need to pull these tracks back out of the car and, you know, reline them, and then I need to adjust them to the door glass and all that kind of stuff. So it's just going to be another, you know, labor involved project, but it's got to be done, you know what I mean? So as soon as they quit mowing and they leave, and I'll give it a few minutes for dust and stuff to settle, then I'll move this out. I removed the rear window track, and this thing, the felt's falling out of it, the felt kit that they put in. So I'm gonna go in and reline these. The track's all bent. This is something when you're doing the restoration, you need to make sure your track's all straight and stuff. This is all kicked out here and bent in here. And anyway, they did use butyl on it, which is kind of surprising, but that's as far as they went. So I used the foam camper top tape when I do them. But this piece right here was actually, this is a piece that's folded over this piece from the factory, and it's supposed to be spot welded. The weld was broken. This was actually bent out a little bit. Probably if the quarter glass wasn't adjusted correctly and you rolled it up and you got pretty hard with it, the quarter glass goes up against this and it will actually push this out. So that's most likely what had happened at one time in its life. I'm not saying they did it, it's just it could have been done for a while. So I'm going to try to straighten this up the best I can because it's pretty messed up, and I'm going to tack weld that. I don't have any MIG wire, you know, stainless stuff, so this is stainless steel, so I'm just going to put a steel little tack weld on there with just my regular MIG wire, and then I'm going to go back and put a little silver paint on there just so the weld doesn't rust. The steel MIG wire will weld stainless. It will just, where the weld is, it will rust. The weld itself will rust. Anyway, the other track's going to have to be relined as well because a piece of it's already hanging out. But so I had noticed this on the car. There is a high spot right here, And I kind of knew when I seen it, I kind of knew what was up. I mean, when there's a high spot right here, you can pretty much bet that the screws that were put in were too long. And that is exactly what they did. The screw is not even fully seated up there because it's too long. They've got a different screw here, which is a short one, I'm assuming, because it didn't put a high spot on the other side, which is a good thing. But looks like they got a little bit of butyl right here and like a 2-inch long piece, and then, you know, they got it up to here, but there was nothing back there. All right, so I did the best I could with the piece on the car from the, you know, going in there, and I kind of hammered on it just a little bit with a flat hammer, and then kind of filed on it a little bit. There was a little low spot, so I worked it from the back side with a little pin and turned the low into a little small high, and then I went back and filed it down. So anyway, I went from 220 grit to 400 grit. This is 500 grit, and then I'll go to 6, then I'll skip to 1,000 because it's all I got. I don't have any 800, and then go up from there, probably go all the way to 3,000. But that, I mean, it might have a little hiccup there, but it's not going to be nothing like it was. Like, it really drew your eye to it with that high spot. But they had some pretty good scratches right in this area too, from where they put the trim on, I'm assuming. So I went in and kind of sanded it down a little bit, and I got quite a bit of it out, but there's one deep one right there. I'm just going to leave it because it's really not that noticeable. But that right there, like when the car was delivered, I saw that high spot. You know, it draws it to you. When you got something that shiny, it's almost like black paint. When it has a flaw in it, you can see it in chrome. So, of course, this is stainless. It's just, you know, it's polished up. It kind of looks similar to chrome. But so now I'm going to keep, you know, working this area here, and then I'm going to tape off the, you know, the majority of the top edge of all this piece, and then I'm going to go in here with a drill with a cotton buffing wheel on it and work this over real good with some rouge, and then I'll end up doing it by hand with rags and probably some mothers or something, but it'll look way better. I'm going to go ahead and get this overspray off. I mean, you can see that. Look at all that overspray on that. That's terrible. All right, guys, there it is after. So I could have got that perfect if I could have taken this off the car and worked it over, but I'm afraid to try to remove this. I mean, for one, I'd have to pull the quarter glass out. I'd have to pull the belt line piece off here, and then this would have to be undone and pulled out. And if they didn't have that clip back there, I would have tried it, but it could have flaked the paint right here. So, you know, it's best to leave it on the car. So what I focused on was just trying to make it to where it's not as noticeable. It's not perfect, but it turned out really nice. Now it doesn't draw your eye to it like, hey, there's a high spot in the trim, you know what I mean? But it turned out really good for it being on the car. I'm pretty happy with it. I removed the other window track, and I'm going to go in, put on a little glove, and I'm going to go in here and remove all this butyl, and then I'm going to straighten up the flanges on the channels here, because they're kind of tweaked out a little bit. One of them I already kind of worked on a little bit. I got to tack weld one into one and then touch it up with a little bit of paint, just so the weld doesn't rust on that stainless. But all of the screws, where the screws go in, you can see how that's all bent up. Every one of them's bent up like that. So that's part of the restoration process, is to flatten this back out. It just helps it, when you're trying to adjust it, it just helps it move a little easier. Now, here's something that if you're working on a hard top, you need to realize this. These tracks, when you go to put them in the car, you set them up in there, and then you slide them back into the body. This part right here, there's a little finger down in there that catches, it's up in the body like that. So when you slide that track down there to it, it goes up in there. That's what holds the very back, because your first attaching hardware is way up here. So what is it, about 8 inches or so? So anyway, you can't see them in here because the quarter glass is in. You can't really see it. You'll feel it when it goes, when you try to put it in there, but they weren't snapped into that. As soon as I took the screws out, it just kind of came right down and just fell down. So Usually when you get them hooked, they got a little bit of tension on them up at the top. I mean, they'll come down a little bit, but you can tell it's snapped into something, but neither side was snapped in. Anyway, I got some work to do, man. I went ahead and pulled all these felt strips out, and you know, some of them are stuck, some of them are not. These are just adhesive on the back. This stuff is still good. It could probably be glued in, and what I'm thinking about doing is relining the sides, and then maybe use that down up in the top there, and then I'll burn the holes through for the screws. So I think that might be what I do. I've got some lining stuff here. It's a big old bunch of stuff. I don't even remember where I got it from. It's big sheets of that stuff, and that's what I used when I relined mine. But anyway, I've got plenty, I think, to do Steve's, and I'm not going to charge him for the lining stuff because I already had it here. But I'm going to cut pieces out and glue them in and make it work. All right, so what I'm trying to do now is get, like, they got that part right there all jacked up. They have this backwards, so anyway, this had a little kink spot here. I'm gonna have to work out with a flat blade screwdriver and a dolly and hammer and all kinds of good stuff. So what I found is a piece of just some plate steel stuff I got in there on the scrap table. So it's about the correct thickness in this area for that. So what I'm going to do is put it up there and then hammer it to it. That'll get it kind of in the ballpark. Just kind of trying to use what I got. Looking at this one here. And I got this one jacked up too. So I'll have to dolly that one out. Man, bunch of jacked up stuff. Alright, so I completely relined this track, and it took a lot of time to clean off all the old butyl from the roof back here and the butyl from this. I mean, it was all over my hands. It was a nasty mess. And then the old glue from the old felt liner, I had to take all that off. So then I glued in this liner, and this is full one piece. There's no separate pieces. It's all one piece, and I cut it to fit and formed it in there with a heat gun. And it's contact cemented in, so it fits the window frame nice and firm, so the window won't be slopping around in there. Some of the relining kits you get are just garbage. They're paper thin stuff. The original stuff was pretty thick, but this window needs to be adjusted up, so I've got to adjust the stop to go up. But when the window goes in, you can tell it's got to go up a little bit more. But I don't even have this track completely tight to the roof yet, and it's pretty snug on there. So that window will go, when I adjust that stop, the window will go up a little bit more, and it'll be nice and firm. So that won't rattle and vibrate. So that's a good thing. Man, I tell you, it is hot today, and I cannot believe the amount I'm sweating. I've already soaked a shirt, and it was heavy when I took it off. So I think I need to take a break because I am getting pretty grouchy, and I'm kind of thirsty.